Real Virginia is proudly produced by the Virginia Farm Bureau Federation. Since 1926, Farm Bureau has been working to preserve Virginia farms and our rural heritage. Visit our website at vafarmbureau.org.
Home will always be Virginia, between the Blue Ridge and Chesapeake Bay, Atlantic to Appalachia, home in my heart always.
Hello everyone and welcome to Real Virginia, a show about Virginia agriculture and the people who produce all of the wonderful products we enjoy. What does sustainable agriculture mean? The term has been thrown around a lot and we'll explain. We have tips on raising eggplant in your home garden and find out why this land is being recognized in the National Register of Historic Places. Welcome back everyone. We're here at Meadow Event Park in Caroline County. It's the birthplace of the very famous racehorse Secretariat, who took his first steps here on this land. And our first story is also dealing with land. It's called sustainable agriculture, and that term means a whole lot of different things to a lot of different people. But what it means to one Virginia farmer is that he is working with his land.
Mike Phillips grew up on his family's farm near Broadway, Virginia, and saw firsthand how soil erosion could deplete the land. He learned from his father the importance of maintaining that soil. Now in his 80s, his father still cuts the grass 2 to 3 times a week on his John Deere tractor, and Phillips has made a career of teaching and mentoring others how to develop their soil using the U.S. Department of Agriculture's Natural Resource and Conservation Service.
Everything living on this farm, below ground and above ground, is very important to me. I have to feed all around. The bees and the beef is equally important to me. People will look at them and roll, what, you don't make money off the bees, you make money off the beef. No. If I don't have the bees, it's a cycle. Everything is got to tie together just like a spider web. If we think in terms of every line in there has its function, every living thing here has its function, what's behind me will be grazed, strip grazed by livestock. To me, that's ultimately the way to get the most benefits out of that cover crop.
Depending on location and need, Phillips plants a mixture of multiple plant species on his land, from just a few to as many as 20. His cattle eat it and retain very little of the potash and phosphorus in their system, so most of those nutrients are returned to the soil, which in turn feeds the subsoil beneath the ground. Techniques like that are just some of the tools farmers learn from their local NRCS office. The USDA and the NRCS are also major sources of federal funding for land improvements. Corey Williams, the local NRCS district conservationist, works with farmers in Rockingham and Page counties to help them install and improve their own conservation improvements. That's one of the key goals of a sustainable farm operation.
My view on sustainability is being able to take the resources that we have today here, whether it be soil, water, air, whatever, and be able to keep them resources the way they are and make them better. That's the whole goal, to prevent the further degradation of those resources. Here's an example here in the Shenandoah Valley. Most of the cropland here has been farmed for well over 200 years. And so there's been a significant amount of erosion in the past, so some of the soil is pretty degraded. So we don't want it to get any worse than what it is now. We want to improve that resource so that we can farm it today and be profitable, but most importantly, so that future generations from now will be able to farm this land and be profitable.
Phillips raises 80 brood cows and several bulls on his 300-acre farm, rotating those animals from pasture to pasture, and a variety of cover crops for forage are some of his best tools.
This is my queen of the crop. This is my queen here. This, because of the years, see, I've been farming, here since '77, and I went through a lot of droughts and dry spells, and the alfalfa is extremely deep rooted. Down below this field is clover, orchard grass, and other mixtures like that, legume and grass. Then here's alfalfa. Then you see my summer annuals here. Basically, all these fields are roughly the same in size, and they're rectangular fields. There's no shade here, so when I graze them, when they get hot, they'll come back in for water.
Williams says there are economical ways for farmers and landowners to use sustainable techniques. One way is to cut down on the tillage or convert to no-till agriculture. No-till means you're not plowing the soil, you're planting directly into the ground with a drill. Another way to greatly reduce erosion is to plant cover crops that can later be harvested for livestock feed or just left to degrade and break down into the soil.
Typically people are planting rye or barley or wheat, or triticale is a common small grain cover crop now. So we sort of, through the NRCS, we sort of encourage people to plant multi-species cover crops. So throw a legume into that mixture or into that small grain that you've normally been planting. A common legume would be Austrian winter peas, or crimson clover, or some sort of hairy vetch variety. What that does is you're growing nitrogen, because those are legumes. They fix nitrogen from the atmosphere, and they're helping to provide nitrogen to the small grain that's growing as well as to subsequent crops.
Philip says nurturing the soil is nothing new. Thomas Jefferson and George Washington planted buckwheat for weed control, so he's carrying on a long tradition of being passionate about soil preservation.
The first thing is the fundamental, you got to have good soils. That is the way, that's the beginning of life. You take away the soil or you deplete that soil, you're done, you're toast. To learn to respect that soil first, and everything else will work, respect and build her back. You keep her covered in the winter to keep her warm. You keep grass or forages growing over top of her head to keep her cool. Feed her well and treat her with respect. And your mother gave you life. The soil gives you life.
A new EPA report says Virginia farmers are on track for meeting a goal of reducing nutrient runoff into the Chesapeake Bay watershed by 60% in a few more years. Taking care of the soil is a big part of that success. In Rockingham County, this is Dave Miller.
Sustainable agriculture has been defined as encompassing three main themes: a healthy environment, financial success, and social and economic equity. For many of the people who raise food for a living, the most important criteria is still making a profit. In recent decades, a great deal of education and government programs have been focused on reducing agriculture's environmental impact. Now more programs are coming online to help experienced farmers stay profitable. And entire courses are available to help beginning farmers secure their finances before they plant their first seed.
Coming up, we're going to be talking about eggplant from the ground up. Please stay tuned.
The State Fair is bringing you the best of Virginia. My job is picking it up. Know any driving tunes? They've been in the bathroom, right? Hello, ladies. No fight songs. This could be a challenge.
Learn more at statefairva.org.
The farm has been in the family for 134 years. This has been my home. It's the only thing I've known.
Growing up on a dairy farm was great. You've got all the opportunities to have fun in the wide open spaces and enjoy working with the crops and the cattle, and it was a good way of growing up. I really enjoyed it.
I believe that the family farm is important in this country, no matter if it's 50 cows or 5,000 cows. A lot of the family farms consume their own products, and they realize the importance of having a good, healthy product.
I am proud that our family and all of us here at this farm at Walkup can be involved in producing nutritious milk for the society. I'm Dan Myers, a fifth-generation dairy farmer from Virginia. I am dedicated to dairy, my cows, my milk, and my land.
Some vegetables are pretty easy to grow in your garden if you know some tricks of the trade. Chris Mullins shows us how to grow eggplant from the ground up.
So today we're going to be talking about eggplants. Now, everybody loves eggplant. It's something that people are starting to cook with more and more. It's real popular in different dishes. And they're actually not too difficult to grow. So let's look at some of these, and I'll give you some production tips on how you can grow them in the garden. And as you can see, eggplants are a real attractive plant. They're an ornamental almost. They're dark green in color, kind of purplish flowers, really nice, but they also give you great fruit. One of the first production tips I'm going to give you is make sure that you get your transplants in the ground when there's warm ground. So for most of you, that's going to be sometime in May. Putting them in cold ground, putting these down just doesn't do very well. They slow down, they sit. So make sure that soil temperature is up in the 70s, almost 70, before you plant your transplants. Now, when you're putting your transplants in, they need to go anywhere from about 18 to 24 inches apart, and that'll give them enough space. The eggplant, unlike tomatoes and peppers, really don't need any trellising. Occasionally you might find one with a heavy fruit load that you might put a stake beside, but otherwise you don't have to worry about stakes too much. Now, they do need irrigation. Eggplant throughout the growing season are going to need quite a bit of water. You can use overhead irrigation, but really that gets the leaves wet and you could have disease problems. I would say drip irrigation is going to be your best bet. Try to put something like drip tape or a soaker hose that you can put down and give them constant water throughout the summer, and they'll do really well for you. Well, fortunately for the home gardener, there are not a lot of disease problems that affect eggplant. That's a good thing. But there are some insects. And early on, you'll get flea beetles and things like that on the eggplants when they're young, just when you've just put those transplants in the ground. And what you can do is cover the plants with hooped row cover that will protect from cold weather, but also exclude those insects from getting on there. And later in the season, you'll get caterpillars and beetles that might attack the leaf and make holes in it. And you can just apply there a BT product, and you can get that type of spray at your local garden center or home improvement warehouse, and that'll take care of all that. Now you're growing this, you've got beautiful fruit on here, you want to harvest it. They are a little prickly around where you harvest, so one of the best things to do is take a knife or some scissors and cut the fruit off. And you can do that and leave a little bit of the stem on there. What you're also leaving is that cap or calyx on the fruit. If you leave that on there, it does another thing. It'll keep the fruit from drying out too early. So that's a good tip right there. There are a lot of varieties out there, a lot of different types. Most of you think of that oblong type that's really dark purple in color, and you know it's ready when it's shiny, by the way. When it gets real shiny, it's time to harvest it. But anyway, most of you are most familiar with that purple colored oblong fruit, but there are white colors out there, there are striped colors. There are also more long shapes, the oriental types like Ichabod and Tiny Fingers, and those oriental varieties are going to be very productive, probably anywhere from 12 to 15 fruit per plant. So you're going to have lots and lots of eggplant to make dishes with. Well, for more information about production of eggplant, please contact your local county extension office. For From the Ground Up, I'm Chris Mullins, and we'll see you next time.
From the Ground Up is presented with the generous advice and assistance of Virginia Cooperative Extension. Visit their website at ext.vt.edu.
Carissa Jackson has a simple recipe using garden-raised fresh eggplant in the heart of the home. That's up next.
This farm, this land, and everything that lives here will be his responsibility someday. My dad passed this land down to me, and I hope to do the same for my son. I care for the land the same way I care for him. Both are the future. We take care of the soil, so it'll take care of us for generations to come.
Farm Bureau and America's farmers, caring for the future.
It's peak season for vegetable production in the Old Dominion, from cucumbers and tomatoes on the eastern shore to cabbage, broccoli, and squash in the hills of southwest Virginia. Just about every type of vegetable is ripe and ready for harvest. There are more than 1,600 commercial vegetable farms in Virginia, bringing in cash receipts of more than $92 million a year. And that's not counting all the thousands of home gardeners. Tomatoes, snap beans, and potatoes are the most popular vegetable crops, followed by sweet corn and cucumbers. So there's no time like now to get your veggies on, Virginia.
What do you do with all the eggplant you just harvested from your garden? Former Miss America Carissa Jackson has a recipe using eggplant courtesy of Relay Foods in the heart of the home.
Hi, I'm Caressa Jackson for Heart of the Home, cooking at the kitchen at Meadow Hall at the Meadow Event Park. Today we're going to be making a roasted eggplant with a turmeric yogurt sauce. To begin, you can start with 2 or 4 eggplants depending on how many people that you're feeding. Today we're going to go ahead and use 2. We're going to grab it and we are going to slice it lengthwise, leaving the green parts on, which is perfectly okay for a roasted recipe. All right, we're going to lay them on our pan. And then we're going to take some olive oil, put it on your fingers very liberally, and rub it in to the surface of the eggplant. And then we're going to add a little salt and pepper to taste. I went ahead and I preheated the oven to 400 degrees. We're going to bake it at that temperature for about 30 to 45 minutes. If you notice for any reason that the eggplant is getting dry, you can add about 1/4 cup of water to the bottom of the pan just to create some steam and to prevent it from drying out. So we're going to go ahead and pop this in the oven and then we'll start making our dressing. So the first thing that we're going to make is actually a lemon garlic drizzle that's going to go on the eggplant as soon as it comes out of the oven and right before we let it cool. So I've started with 1 large garlic clove minced, and I'm just going to squeeze the juice of a lemon. And then we'll sit this to the side. And this will happen before we put the dressing on. So to make our dressing, we're going to start with 1/4 cup of yogurt. We'll dilute our yogurt with 1/4 cup of water. Once that's good and mixed, then we're going to add 1 teaspoon of honey. A 1/2 teaspoon of our turmeric. And then sea salt to taste. Then with the other half of the lemon, we're going to add those juices to our dressing. And once it's all mixed, you can put it in your refrigerator while you're waiting for your roasted eggplants, and then we'll serve it in a few minutes. So we've just taken our eggplant out of the oven, and before we get ready to put our dressing on it, we want to make sure that we put our garlic and lemon mixture on top, and we're going to let this seep into the eggplant, the flavors, while it's cooling down. So after we put the garlic and lemon on, we're going to give it about 10 minutes before we actually top it with our dressing. Eggplant's one of those things that you can find all over the state of Virginia at your local farmer's market, but we were fortunate enough to get ours from our friends at Relay Foods. It's now time to serve up our roasted eggplant. So we're going to take one, lay it on the plate, and then we're going to liberally add our turmeric sauce to it. And there you have it, roasted eggplant with a yogurt turmeric sauce. I'm Caressa Jackson for Heart of the Home. Come and get it.
Recipes from the Heart of the Home can be found on the Virginia Farm Bureau website at vafarmbureau.org. Visit the Virginia farm that produced an American legend. See the birthplace of 1973 Triple Crown champion Secretariat, now a Virginia Historic Landmark, at Meadow Event Park. Our Hoofprints of History tours are given year-round by reservation. It's a perfect day trip for families, groups large or small, and anyone who loves horses and history. Resident author-historian Leanne Meadows Layden conducts the tours and shares behind-the-scenes stories about Meadow Stable and its most famous son, Secretariat. Meadow Event Park also hosts the annual Secretariat Birthday Celebration at the Virginia Horse Festival each spring. The festivities at the State Fair of Virginia at Meadow Event Park include an annual salute to Secretariat during both weekends. Come see where the legend lives on. Visit Secretariat's birthplace at Meadow Event Park.
Many Virginians already know that the fastest racehorse in thoroughbred history was born here in Caroline County, in fact, in this foaling shed. But now, travelers worldwide will be able to find Secretariat's birthplace. These quiet grounds are now known as the Meadow Historic District, the birthplace of 1973 Triple Crown champion Secretariat. Christopher Chinnery transformed his ancestral home place into a renowned thoroughbred farm, and later his daughter Penny took his dream to unprecedented heights, first with the horse Riva Ridge and then America's super horse Secretariat. The area includes the foaling shed where Secretariat was born, the yearling barn where he was kept as a colt, and a yearling barn annex, stallion barn, horse cemetery, and a well house and pump house. The property, which dates back to 1805, today is known as the Meadow Event Park and recently was named to the Virginia Landmarks Register and now is officially part of the National Register of Historic Places.
It gives us national recognition, really, as the birthplace of Secretariat. It is the type of thing that is very significant to people who are historians, aside from people who are fans of Secretariat. And it just, it gives us a real plus in terms of tourism for folks who want to come visit the Meadow as the birthplace of Secretariat.
Leanne Layden is Secretariat Tourism Manager at the Meadow Event Park. She coordinated the research and documentation for the nomination process.
We were looking at the period from 1936, which is when Chris Chinnery founded the Meadow as a thoroughbred farm, to the period of 1973 when Secretariat won the Triple Crown. And so you have to have a lot of the historical description. You have to document the architectural features of the stables and the grounds, and you have to have very detailed photos and very detailed descriptions. You have to have maps. And so it was quite a team effort to get this done, and like I said, it took over 2 years to do it.
Layden conducts the Hoofprints of History tours of Secretariat's birthplace year-round by appointment and will be on hand during the State Fair of Virginia, September 25th through October 4th. She'll be promoting the importance of the horse they called Big Red and other Virginia thoroughbred horses in the sport of horse racing.
And we offer these tours really 6 days a week by reservation, but Tuesday through Sunday, we offer the tours. There's a walking tour, and also if you bring a group, if you have a group of at least, say, 12 or 15 people, we'll get our Hoofprints of History tram.
The Meadow Event Park is the site of the annual State Fair of Virginia and many other signature events. It is also home to trade shows, weddings, and many other events. For more information on the site, visit meadoweventpark.com. That's going to do it for this edition of Real Virginia. We are so glad you could join us to celebrate the bounty Virginia has to offer. Whether it's in your home, your garden, or your landscape, we are proud to say that this is Real Virginia. So for everyone from the Virginia Farm Bureau, thanks for watching. Make it a good week.
Home will always be Virginia, between the Blue Ridge and Chesapeake Bay.